Hey everyone, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
So today we're going to be talking about taking on challenges, and
Okay.
we've got some really, really great material for this one.
Yeah,
I think it's going to help people become better leaders in any area of their life, really.
absolutely. I think what's so interesting about this is it's not just like trying harder,
Right.
you know? It's really like a fundamental shift in how you think.
Yeah.
It's a way of thinking that can really change how you approach challenges and how you achieve your goals.
I like that. So where does this way of thinking come from?
It's a concept called extreme ownership,
Okay.
and it was developed by two former Navy SEALs.
Wow. Okay, so we're talking about some intense individuals here.
Oh yeah, these guys operated in just unbelievably high pressure situations,
Yeah.
leading teams, making life or death decisions.
So how did they go from like the battlefield to the boardroom?
Well, they realized that the same principles that were so crucial for success in combat were also incredibly effective in business and in life in general. And so one of the core principles is this idea of extreme ownership.
Okay. So let's break that down. What does extreme ownership really mean?
It's about owning everything.
Okay.
Every success, every failure, every outcome.
Wow.
No blaming other people, no excuses.
Just pure ownership.
Pure, unadulterated ownership.
That sounds pretty radical. How do you even begin to apply that?
Well, you mentioned that you've been having trouble delegating tasks effectively.
Oh, yeah.
So think about a recent project where delegation was a problem. Where did you have control, even if it was something small?
Yep.
Could you have communicated more clearly? Could you have provided better support?
Right.
Set clearer expectations?
That's a really good point. I tend to just assume that everyone's on the same page,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Right.
which is obviously rarely the case.
And that's not how it works.
So instead of blaming others when things go wrong, I should really be looking at how I could set them up for success.
Exactly. That's a key principle in the book. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders.
I like that.
So if your team isn't performing, the first place to look is at your leadership.
Okay.
Are you providing the right training? Are you creating a culture of open communication,
Right.
fostering trust and collaboration?
So it's about taking a long, hard look in the mirror before you start pointing fingers at other people.
Yeah.
I like that. But it also sounds like a lot of pressure.
It's definitely a high standard, but it's also incredibly empowering.
Okay.
Because once you embrace this idea of extreme ownership,
Yeah.
you realize that you have far more control over your outcomes than you think.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstance, you become the architect of your own success.
Exactly.
But doesn't that require like a ton of confidence?
Sure. And that's where another key principle comes in.
Okay.
Belief. You have to really believe in what you're doing, in your ability to succeed, and in the potential of your team.
But what if you're working on a project that you're not passionate about?
Okay.
Or what if you're leading a team that's facing some serious challenges?
Mm.
How do you maintain that belief when things get tough?
It starts with focusing on what you can control.
Okay.
What aspects of the project excite you? What strengths does your team possess?
Mhm.
Even in the most challenging situations, there are always reasons to believe.
Yeah.
And that belief is contagious. When you believe in what you're doing, that passion and conviction will inspire others around you.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. When a leader is really passionate and committed, it creates this ripple effect
It does.
that can energize an entire team.
It's powerful.
But what about when ego gets in the way?
Oh, absolutely.
We all have egos, and sometimes they can really lead us down the wrong path.
The book addresses this directly.
Huh.
One of the key principles is check the ego.
Okay.
We all have one. It can be a motivator, but when your ego starts to cloud your judgment
Yeah.
and prevents you from seeing reality clearly, that's when it becomes a problem.
It's so easy to get caught up in our own heads and our own desires
Right.
that we lose sight of the bigger picture. And that can be detrimental not just to our own success,
Sure.
but to the success of the team as a whole.
Of course.
So we've talked about extreme ownership, belief, and checking the ego.
Right.
What other practical tactics does the book offer?
One concept I find really insightful is cover and move.
Okay, that sounds very military-esque. I'm intrigued.
It is. It's a military term, but it translates beautifully to the world of business and teamwork.
Okay, break it down for me.
So think about it like this. Different departments in a company are like different units on a battlefield.
Okay.
They each have their own specific roles and responsibilities, but they need to work together to achieve that big strategic goal.
You know, that reminds me of what you were saying earlier about there being no bad teams, only bad leaders.
Yeah.
It seems like cover and move is really about creating that sense of shared responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And too often we see departments operating in silos,
Oh, yeah.
focused on their own narrow objectives, competing with each other for resources instead of collaborating.
Oh, I've definitely seen that happen.
Mm.
It creates so much unnecessary friction and slows everything down.
Exactly. Cover and move is about breaking down those silos,
Okay.
recognizing that everyone's on the same team and that supporting each other, even if it's not explicitly your job, ultimately benefits the whole organization.
I can see how that mindset would be so valuable,
Mm.
especially in today's world. It's about thinking beyond your own immediate tasks and seeing how your work fits into the larger ecosystem.
Right. And it's about being proactive, looking for opportunities to support your colleagues, even if it's outside your defined role.
So how can we as individuals start to embrace this cover and move mentality?
Start by thinking about the departments you interact with most frequently at work. Where's the friction? Where are the communication breakdowns? Are there opportunities for you to bridge that gap?
So it's about taking initiative, being proactive, focusing on the bigger picture, even in small ways. Instead of just complaining about how they're important, you're taking ownership and finding ways to improve them.
That's the heart of it. And that proactive, solution-oriented approach is what sets truly effective leaders apart.
You know, you mentioned earlier that you've been having trouble delegating tasks.
Mm-hmm.
This next concept might sound a little counterintuitive, but it might offer a fresh perspective. The book talks about decentralized command, which again sounds very military,
Yeah, it does.
but it's not about giving orders.
Right. It's about empowering people.
Mm.
Think about it. Have you ever felt stifled by a micromanaging boss?
Oh, yeah.
Or, on the flip side, been given a task with zero guidance and left feeling totally lost?
Oh, yeah, I've been there too.
Decentralized command is about finding that sweet spot between those two extremes.
It's about striking a balance between control and autonomy.
Exactly. It's about trusting your team, giving them the autonomy to make decisions within their area of expertise,
Okay.
but also setting clear boundaries and expectations.
Okay, I'm starting to see how that could be really helpful, especially with delegation. Instead of trying to control every little detail, I need to trust my team to make decisions and take ownership of their work. But how do I do that without creating chaos?
It comes back to clear communication and setting those boundaries.
Right.
You need to clearly define the desired outcome, the parameters within which they can operate, and the resources available to them. And you need to be available to answer questions and provide support, but avoid the temptation to micromanage.
So it's about empowering the right people to make decisions without creating chaos.
Exactly. And you know what? This principle can be applied even if you're not in a formal leadership role.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Think about your personal life. Maybe you're trying to plan a trip with friends or organize a family event.
Right.
Applying decentralized command could look like delegating tasks to different people based on their strengths, trusting them to handle their piece of the puzzle, but also staying in communication and making sure everyone's aligned on the overall vision. I see what you mean. So it's about letting go of the need to control everything and trusting others to step up and contribute their unique skills and perspectives.
Exactly. And that shared ownership, that sense of collective responsibility, is what leads to a stronger, more cohesive outcome.
That's a powerful insight. It's
Yeah.
about shifting from a mindset of, I have to do it all, to, we can do this together.
Absolutely. And when you embrace that shift, you not only create a more collaborative and enjoyable environment,
Right.
but you also free yourself up to focus on the things that truly require your unique skills and expertise.
So we've got extreme ownership, believe, check the ego, cover and move, and now decentralized command. It's amazing how these principles, which were developed in such high-stakes situations, are so relevant to our everyday lives. But I have to admit, sometimes it feels like life is just too unpredictable to apply these principles consistently. How do you deal with uncertainty?
That's a great question, and the book acknowledges that uncertainty is just a part of life.
Yeah.
In fact, they emphasize the importance of making decisions even when you don't have all the information.
But isn't that risky? I mean, we're always told to gather all the facts, weigh the pros and cons, analyze the situation before making a decision.
Of course, planning and analysis are important, but there comes a point where overthinking and second-guessing can actually be paralyzing. And in many cases, you simply won't have the luxury of waiting for perfect information.
That's true. Sometimes you just have to trust your gut and make the best decision you can with the information you have at the time. But how do you know when it's time to act? How do you overcome that fear of making the wrong decision?
It's about shifting your mindset from fear of failure to a willingness to learn and adapt.
Oh,
It's about embracing the fact that you won't always have all the answers, but you can trust yourself to make the best decision you can in the moment.
that's a powerful perspective. Instead of seeing uncertainty as a threat, you see it as an opportunity to learn to grow and to develop your decision-making skills.
Exactly. And it's about being adaptable. You make the best decision you can based on the information you have, and then you adjust course as needed. It's a continuous process of learning, adapting, and evolving.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about embracing the fluidity of life and being willing to adjust your approach as new information emerges.
Precisely. And it's about trusting your instincts. You've accumulated a wealth of knowledge and experience over the years. Don't discount the power of your intuition.
I love that. It's about finding that balance between thoughtful preparation and decisive action.
And that balance is something that can be cultivated with practice. The more you embrace uncertainty, the more comfortable you become making decisions in the face of it.
That resonates with me. I think we often get so caught up in seeking certainty and trying to control every outcome that we forget that the only constant in life is change.
And embracing that reality, embracing the unknown, is what ultimately allows us to grow, to evolve, and to achieve our full potential.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about surrendering to the flow of life while still taking ownership of our choices and actions.
Yeah.
And speaking of ownership, there's one more concept from the book that I'd love to explore. It's the idea that discipline equals freedom,
Right.
which at first glance seems like a complete paradox.
I know, right? We tend to associate discipline with restriction limitation rules.
Yeah.
But the book argues that true freedom actually comes from having the discipline to create structure and routine in your life.
I'm curious to hear more about that. It's not something I've ever really considered before.
Think about it this way. When you have discipline, when you establish clear boundaries and routines, you free yourself from the constant decision fatigue and mental clutter that can drain your energy and prevent you from focusing on what truly matters.
Okay, and starting to see the connection. It's like by creating structure, you create space for freedom. But can't that structure also become stifling? I mean, isn't there a risk of becoming too rigid, too caught up in the rules?
That's a valid concern, and it's about finding that sweet spot. It's about creating structure that supports your goals and values, not one that constricts you or prevents you from adapting to changing circumstances.
So it's about creating structure that empowers you, not one that imprisons you.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that discipline doesn't have to be about deprivation or punishment. It can be about creating positive habits, rituals, and routines that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
I'm starting to see how that could be incredibly freeing. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by endless choices and decisions, you create a framework that guides your actions and allows you to focus on what's truly important.
Precisely. And that freedom allows you to pursue your goals with greater clarity, focus, and energy. Think about something as simple as your morning routine. Having a set routine, even if it's just a few simple steps, can make a huge difference in how you approach your day. It eliminates decision fatigue, reduces stress, and allows you to start your day with intention.
You know, you're right. I've noticed that on days when I have clear morning routine, I feel more focused and productive throughout the day. It's like setting the tone for success right from the start.
Exactly. And that sense of structure and routine can be applied to so many areas of your life, from your work schedule to your fitness goals to your creative pursuits. It's about creating systems that support your success.
So discipline equals freedom is about creating a framework that empowers us to make conscious choices, to focus on what matters most, and to live with greater intention and purpose.
You got it. It's about recognizing that true freedom comes not from doing whatever we want whenever we want, but from having the discipline to create a life that is aligned with our values and goals.
That's a powerful insight. It's about taking ownership not just of our actions, but of the very structure of our lives.
And when we do that, we create a foundation for a life that is not only more successful,
Right.
but also more meaningful and fulfilling.
This has been an incredibly enlightening conversation.
It has.
We've covered so much ground, from battlefield tactics to the nuances of personal discipline.
We have.
And what's amazing is how all these principles, despite their origins in a military context, are so applicable to our everyday lives. They offer a powerful framework for taking ownership, building strong teams, making effective decisions, and ultimately living a more intentional and fulfilling life.
Yeah, and I think what's really important to remember is that it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will be times when you stumble, when you make mistakes, when you feel overwhelmed by the challenges. But by embracing these principles, you equip yourself with the mindset and the tools to navigate those challenges and ultimately achieve your goals.
This has been another fantastic deep dive. And I hope our listeners are feeling just as energized and inspired as I am. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading with courage and conviction.
It has been a great conversation.
It really has. So as we've been talking about all these principles, I keep thinking about how crucial communication is in putting them into practice. Whether it's setting clear expectations, fostering collaboration, building trust communication, seems to be at the heart of it all.
You're absolutely right. Effective communication is really the bedrock of strong leadership. It's how we inspire, motivate, and empower others. And it's how we create a shared vision and work together towards common goals.
So how do we become better communicators, especially when it comes to leadership?
Well, the book highlights a principle that might seem surprisingly simple,
Okay.
yet incredibly powerful. Simplify as much as possible. They really stress the importance of clear and concise communication, particularly when conveying plans, orders, or just complex information to a team.
That makes perfect sense in a high-pressure military operation. But how does that translate to our everyday lives? I mean, sometimes we're dealing with really complex ideas and nuanced situations. How do we simplify without oversimplifying?
It's about distilling the essence of the message. Focusing on the key takeaways and avoiding unnecessary jargon or technical language.
Right.
Remember, your goal is to make sure that everyone understands the message, not to impress them with your vocabulary.
I think we often get so caught up in trying to sound intelligent or sophisticated
Right.
that we forget about clarity. We just assume everyone understands what we're saying, but in reality, they might be completely lost.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to check for understanding.
Right.
Don't just assume that people are nodding along because they're too afraid to speak up. Encourage questions, clarify doubts, and create a safe space for open and honest communication.
Yeah, I've definitely been in situations where I felt hesitant to ask clarifying questions just for fear of looking stupid.
Sure.
But I realize now it's far more detrimental to pretend you understand something when you don't. So how do we create that kind of open communication environment where people feel comfortable speaking up?
It starts with being a leader who values feedback and is willing to admit when you're wrong.
Okay.
It's about fostering a culture of trust and respect where mistakes are seen as opportunities for learning, not reasons for blame.
I think that's such an important point. When people feel safe to express their ideas and concerns, that's when true innovation and collaboration can flourish.
Absolutely. And another key principle from the book that ties into this is leading up the chain of command.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that effective communication is a two-way street, not just top-down.
That's an interesting concept. I think most of us are more focused on managing the people below us in the hierarchy, not necessarily our bosses.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to lead up?
It's about proactively communicating with your superiors, keeping them informed, providing them with the information they need to make informed decisions,
Okay.
and offering solutions, not just problems.
That makes sense. But it also sounds like it requires a lot of tact and diplomacy.
Yeah.
How do you lead up without overstepping boundaries or coming across as insubordinate?
It's about being respectful even when you disagree. It's about presenting a united front, even if you've had to push back or advocate for a different approach behind closed doors. And it's about remembering that your ultimate goal is to support the overall mission, even if it means putting your ego aside.
Yeah, I've definitely learned the hard way that effective communication often involves finding that delicate balance between assertiveness and diplomacy. It's about advocating for your ideas while still respecting the chain of command and maintaining a collaborative spirit.
Exactly. And all of these principles, whether it's simplifying your communication, checking for understanding, or leading up the chain of command, ultimately come back to taking ownership. It's about focusing on what you can control, how you can contribute, and how you can use your communication skills to inspire, motivate, and empower those around you.
As we've been discussing all these principles, extreme ownership, belief, checking the ego, cover and move, decentralized command, discipline equals freedom, and now the importance of communication. I'm struck by how interconnected they are.
Yeah.
They create this powerful framework for leadership that's not just about giving orders, but about building trust, fostering collaboration, and empowering others to achieve their full potential.
It's a holistic approach to leadership that recognizes the complexity of human interactions and the importance of leading with both strength and empathy. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered to contribute their unique talents and perspectives.
This has been such an incredible deep dive, and I'm feeling incredibly inspired to put these principles into practice in my own life.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be times when you stumble, when you make mistakes, when you feel overwhelmed by the challenges. But by embracing these principles, you equip yourself with the mindset and the tools to navigate those challenges and ultimately achieve your goals.
There's been another fantastic deep dive, and I hope our listeners are feeling just as energized and inspired as I am. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading with courage and conviction.
It really is. And it's not just about work either.
Yeah.
You know, you can apply these principles to your personal life too, relationships, parenting. It's about showing up as the best version of yourself in every area of your life.
I love that. So we've talked about a lot of really powerful concepts today. Extreme ownership, belief, check the ego, cover and move, decentralized command, discipline equals freedom. And I think what's really resonating with me is that these principles aren't just about achieving external success.
Right.
They're also about developing a deeper sense of self-awareness,
Yeah.
self-mastery, and inner peace.
Right. Absolutely. It's about taking radical responsibility for your life, your choices, your actions, and ultimately your happiness.
It's about recognizing that true fulfillment comes not from external validation, but from living in alignment with your values and your purpose.
Exactly. And it's about embracing the journey, the challenges, the setbacks as opportunities for growth and learning.
This has been an incredible conversation, and I feel like I've gained so many valuable insights,
Me too.
and I hope our listeners are feeling the same way. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
What's one small step you can take today to embrace the principle of extreme ownership in your own life?
It's a powerful question, and the answer is going to be different for everyone. But I encourage you to really reflect on that question and see what comes up.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.